Hey everyone, it's Janelle Renee, and I just want to come on for a few minutes because I feel really impressed to just speak my truth right now. Honestly, it's not something I want to do, it's not something I'm prepared to do, it's not something I'm comfortable doing, but I feel that the Lord is telling me to just come on here and be honest, and prayerfully it helps someone else and someone needs to hear it. Just really the truth about our journey as a Christian and the different seasons and the different processes that we go through as a Christian, and how we, a lot of times people are like, they tell their testimony and they may tell it from the place of already coming through the hard time, coming through the transition, coming through that season of hardship or wilderness, isolation, or, you know, warfare or whatever it is. And then you see all of the glitz and glam, or you see all of the blessing and the promise and the abundance and the goodness and all these great things. But what about those of us that are in that season right now, that are still in the season of transition, are still in the season of wilderness, still in the season of isolation, still experiencing warfare? Things are not going the way that we desire. It feels like our life is falling apart. We're questioning our faith. We're questioning God. You down, you depressed, you stressed out, you confused, and you're going through, and you hear the testimony, and it can be encouraging for the moment, or it even can be discouraging because you feel like, well, why not me? Because you know that in the season you're in is a very difficult season, and you feel like there's no hope or you don't see no way out. And yes, I believe a lot of people, when they give advice or give encouragement, and strategies and tips on how they got through their season and now they're in their new season, it is great and it is good and it's effective. But I think we really need to be more honest about in the moment. So here I am. I'm in the moment. I'm in the moment of a season of wilderness, isolation, stripping, warfare. I feel confused. I feel forsaken. I feel forgotten by God. That part, right? So we know the Bible tells us that He'll never leave nor forsake us, and that He's always with us, and that His love never fails, that His love is unwavering, that He is with us everywhere that we go, that nothing can separate us from His love. Most of us know, like, those scriptures, that God's faithfulness, and have that confidence in that when things are going okay, even when things are going well. But when things are very opposing to that, or when you don't feel like God has remembered His promise or is remembering you, when you feel like God is far away, He's not near. The Bible tells us that He's closer than a brother, that He's a present help in our time of trouble. But what about when you're in the trouble and you're in the water and the storm is raging, right? But you're crying out and you don't hear anything. And so that's where I'm at. And it doesn't matter up until this point how much faith I had, how much scripture I know, how much I study the word, how anointed I am, how gifted I am, how discerning I am, how I know the gifts that the Lord has given me, and how I even can flow through those gifts, right? Those are great things, and it's a blessing, and I'm grateful for that growth, for that spiritual maturity, for that enlightening, for that growing, right? But when you hit it with a season where it's like you can't even breathe, you can't even get your footing. It's not even that it's one particular situation that's going on, but it's like several or all the situations at one time. And you're experiencing, if I can be honest, I have two family members that were pretty close to me that just passed away back to back, literally. Like, my nephew was murdered on the 15th of February. His funeral was like the 27th of February. And then my stepmother, she passed away on the 28th of February. And then her funeral was just this past Saturday, which was, I don't even know the date. But just this past Saturday. Sorry, today's the 10th, a couple days ago. The 6th, I think. But on top of that, I'm in a financial crisis. I have no income. The only income I had was child support from my youngest son's father, and that literally was the only income I had. And it was like $400 some a month for me and two of my kids. My older son is not living with us anymore. He lives on his own with a friend. So it's me and two of my kids. So it's three of us on an income of like $435 a month. But the Lord had graced me. We was making it work. My bills are fairly low. I don't have a lot of obligation or, big financial obligations. Like I don't have a mortgage. I don't have car note, things like that. So we was able to manage. And so, things was okay. But I was feeling a little, uncomfortable because that was still something I wasn't used to because I'm used to working because I am I'm a licensed cosmetologist and licensed insurance agent. So working, and even I used to work in the healthcare field and did various different positions and jobs in the healthcare field. So really, for me, a career or working is always what I've done. I've always been able to provide for me and my family. I've always been able to meet our needs. We wasn't rich or wealthy or anything by any stretch, but we lived good. We were comfortable. Wasn't in lack. Is the best way to say it. So even just to be on something just like child support was very difficult for me, and I felt that the Lord had put in my spirit not to go to work, which was another hard thing for me because I felt like, okay, I need to go to work. I need to work. I wasn't working because I was in a car accident, really bad car accident. Ended up with a back injury, back surgery, a permanent injury to my leg and back. Causes a lot of issues, physical issues, and limitations to what I can and cannot do. So that was really why I wasn't working at first. But then once I just started seeing how it felt like the finances was drying up, I was like, okay, I need to go to work despite the fact that I'm in pain, despite the fact that it's not really recommended from my physicians, but despite the fact that physically I don't really believe that I should work, but because of my circumstances I wanted to work because I'm like, that's what I do. I work. You're a single mother. Most of us single moms know you do what you got to do. Your baby's got to eat. You got to keep a roof over your head. You got to get the needs met. So things went from difficult to dire and financially. I spoke about the physical pain. I have chronic pain now, something I've never had in my life due to this car accident. So I deal with that. And then just the different emotions and effects and limitations that brings. So it will affect my ability to do the things I need to do around the house and whatnot, and just having pain. Like who wants to be a young individual and have chronic pain? So that's another aspect. And then we are in a place where I felt like the Lord had told us to get rid of a lot of things in our life because for the last year and a half, going on 2 years, I've been in a season of uprooting. And any of us who know the word in Ecclesiastes, which it talks about, there's a time and a season for everything under the sun. And it talks about there's a season to uproot and then there's a season to plant. And I don't know how literal we take the scriptures, but the scriptures is true and is real. And I don't think it becomes that real to us until we're living it. Well, I've been in a season of uprooting and a season of stripping. So a lot of the things that we had, material things, I had to give up. So God told me to get rid of our furniture. I got rid of it. God told me to get rid of my bedroom suit, my dining room table, just so many different material things that we had. And in a moment, I got rid of it because it was like I just assumed he wanted me to make room and he was going to give me some new stuff. So it was like, oh, okay. Even though I was stepping on no faith and it didn't make sense and people was looking at me crazy and I was kind of looking at myself crazy, I trusted God and I was like, okay, Father, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And so just over the span of maybe a year and a half, I got rid of almost everything. So now... No, I haven't got anything new. Now we're living really a place of where we don't even have those basic things. Like me and my children don't have beds. I sleep on the couch. You can see like my covers and stuff. This is not just here, whatever. You can kind of see my house. Like, there's nothing in here. You can kind of see in the kitchen a little bit maybe. There's nothing, there's no dining room table or anything in there. So, we don't have beds, we don't have furniture, we don't have a dining room table. I don't have a car because I had my one car I had did get repo, not because I owed payments on it. It's because I got a title loan on it, and I couldn't pay the title loan, and the people come and repo my car. Do not do that. I don't care how dire your situation is financially. Please don't put a title loan on your vehicle that you own, okay? Because that makes no sense. But anyway, it's my truth. I put a title loan on the car. They came and repoed it. And after that, I was kind of using people's cars. My brother had extra cars, but it just came to the place a couple weeks ago where he needed that car. And so now I'm left with no car. Um, and then my children, I'm having parenting frustrations, with my children. I was homeschooling, and I felt God called me to that as well, and I didn't want to do that. I'm not an educator, by trade, or but I don't have a degree in education. But I felt that the Lord told me to pull my children out of school, and I know the reasons why, and I trusted Him in that, and I pulled them out. That was hard. Homeschooling is not easy. It's a process. It takes a lot of time, grit, determination, consistency, persistence, research, grace, 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 grace. And so that was difficult because I'm trying to do that on top of everything else I'm dealing with, because I was also having relationship issues in the midst of all this. I was in a relationship since 2018 till November of last year. It was very toxic. It was very toxic. I made videos prior to this one. You can look at those and talk about that. So I was dealing with all of the pain, the anguish, the hurt, all of the negativity, all the warfare from just that relationship on top of everything else I'm naming. And so, just wanted to kind of just give a backdrop of kind of where I am. So then, on top of that, it's the anguish of feeling like I just have lost everything. I don't have any income. I really don't be knowing how I'm gonna pay my bills. My phone bill was cut off last month for some days until somebody blessed me with the money. I don't have no means like to figure out to get a car, even when we need things like toiletries and stuff. I don't be knowing where that money gonna come from. Sometimes family members and people bless me with money, and that helps, but I can't really count on that because I don't know for sure, right? So I'm just like in a season where I'm totally having to trust God, but it also feels like I'm being forgotten and forsaken because all these things are going on. I'm praying and praying and praying, but it's like God isn't answering my prayer. And then I have people in my life, friends and stuff, who I'm praying for. Help, they're in situations, they're in need. They want, God to bless them with this. They have an opportunity or something. So, and I'm praying for them. And lo and behold, my prayers are being answered. They getting blessed left and right. I mean, everybody around me getting blessed. They getting blessed with cars, buying homes, jobs, income, resources, everything. And I'm sitting here and I feel like everything is literally falling apart. Like my whole life is falling apart. I haven't even been able to grieve my family members that just passed away because I'm so stressed with all of the other things that's going on in my life. And I have all these promises and all this word that I've hidden in my heart. And I feel like God has failed me because I've been praying, I've been fasting, I've been reading, I've been standing on the word, I've been, worshiping. I started doing YouTube videos. I didn't want to. I got back on Instagram to start walking in my purpose because I felt that's a part of how God wants to use me, to speak to His people using technology, using social media platforms, a way to engage with people and get the message out there. I didn't want to do any of that. I had been off of social media. Literally, I had no social media for over a year. And then I felt like he told me to go back on. I did it. I did everything that I feel like God has told me to do, yet and still I feel like my life is going backwards. Like things are just getting worse. And so I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So I've been just so depressed. I've been down. I've been having dark thoughts. I feel just so forsaken and forgotten, and like God doesn't love me, and the enemy keep wanting me to believe that God doesn't love me, that He doesn't care. I'm frustrated. It's like, and then it just be small things on top of these big monumental things. It's a lot of small things, I can't sleep, or I'm having, crazy dreams, or I'm having spiritual warfare, which is something else that brings so much intensity and heaviness to this situation, where you're not only dealing with the physical things that you can see, but now you have forces and things that you cannot see coming against you. And I don't know if you know what spiritual warfare is. I'll just touch on it. I'll maybe do a video later and go in depth. But spiritual warfare can be a lot of things because the enemy doesn't care. He's going to use whatever and whoever because that's just how he is. He's just evil like that. But when you like for me, one way that he often attacks me is physically. Like, so I'll have dreams where something is holding me down or something is attacking me and I'm having to fight it, or I'm having to try to say Jesus and, you know, try to talk because something is literally like feel like it's crushing me. So I have those kind of experiences, which is just attack of the enemy. It's intimidation. It's fear because I'm vulnerable. Because he's always going to attack us where we're vulnerable because he knows I'm weakened, because all of the situations I have before me, and because I feel so lost and confused, I'm doubting. I have unbelief. I'm doubting God. I want to give up. You know, I'm just going to be honest. I've told God I give up. I've said I give up several times and meant it. I wanted to go back to drinking. I haven't drinking over 3 years, but I'm like, I just want to numb the pain because I've been literally on this couch where I just told y'all I sleep here. But I've been on this couch curled up in fetal position, crying for hours and hours every day. My babies ask me, "Mia, why are you so sad? Why are you crying?" And I don't even have the words to tell them. As a mom, I can't go. My kids need clothes, drawers, shoes. I can't even go out and get that stuff. They sleeping on the floor, on a pallet, on covers. I just got them a new air mattress just because I was in so much anguish as a mom. Like, I can't have my babies on the floor. And so I've been really down. Like, I've been having dark thoughts. I don't want to live because it's just so heavy. And then somebody may hear this and be like, "Oh, it don't sound like it's that bad." And because I didn't go into every single detail, I just want to say what I feel led to say. But you know, to make someone understand that when life get hard, because it will, even as a Christian, and there are moments where you doubt and you question everything, and you question God. But we have to understand that as Christians, that's okay. But it's so difficult to be in a place where you are alone, because that's another thing. I have no support system. I have no real like friends here, you know, to really anchor me, to be an Aaron and to hold me up, you know, like where Moses, when the Israelites was fighting against their enemy, and Moses had to hold the staff up, and as long as he held it up, you know, Joshua and the Israelites, they were winning. But the moment he got so tired because he had to hold it up so long, because they was fighting for like a whole day, soon he would like his arm would drop. They start losing, the enemy would start winning. So Aaron and had to come under him, and they had to hold his arm up, and then Israel would win. But see, in these type of seasons, you need a support system. You need people, even if it's 1, 2 people, family, friends, you know, that's really firm in their faith, and can give you wise counsel, can cover you, can stand in the gap for you, can pray for you, to help you to just get through the season. Because it's times I don't pray. I don't feel like praying. It's times I don't read the Bible. I don't feel like reading the Bible. It's times I don't do Bible study because I don't feel like it, because I'm in so much pain. I'm in so much pain. And I just don't understand. And it can't make no sense of it. And then I pray and pray and pray and cry out in anguish. I pour out my heart, my soul unto the Lord. I pour out my soul in anguish, in agony, in despair. And I don't hear anything. He's silent. This is one of the most difficult places and seasons I've ever been in my life. And it reminds me of the story of Jesus right before he went to Calvary, and he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. And Gethsemane in Hebrew, Gethsemane in Greek. In Greek means oil press. Which is really interesting because in that moment when he was in the garden, he was in anguish. And my Bible says he was praying, and he was in so much anguish and agony until death, until like the point where he wanted to die or felt like he was dying. And we know it says he was sweating blood, like, and he was crying, and he was in so much turmoil, and he was just in so much agony and anguish and despair, and he was so broken and so hurt because he knew what he was, the cup he had to drink. And he even asked God, like, if there's any way, please take this from me, but not my will, thy will. But in that moment, he was being crushed. And that's why Gethsemane is so interesting, that it means oil press, because the olive has to get crushed in order for the oil to flow. And yes, that sounds very profound and so, wise, and it's true, but it doesn't help when you're actually being crushed. And so I'm in a season where I'm being crushed. I'm in a season where I feel like, and no, in no way I will ever compare myself to Jesus, but I can understand how he felt in that garden as when he was crying out. And if I could sweat blood, I probably would have been. If my tears could be blood, because I cried to the point I'm having migraines, headaches. I can't sleep. I'm taking pills just to try to sleep. Like, I'm talking about sheer agony. And the worst of it is, it's not the financial stuff. It's not the losses of loved ones. It's not the physical pain in my body. It's not the frustration with the children. It's not the not having anything. It's not the not having a car and everything else that I have going on. The mental torment, the spiritual warfare. It's not all of that. The hardest part is feeling like God has forsaken me. The hardest part is feeling like God has forgotten me, and that he's not there, because I reason to myself, if I don't have, if God isn't there, I don't stand a chance. I don't have nothing. And of course, that's a trick of the enemy to really get us where we're vulnerable and want to speak those lies into our ear and want to continue to play on those insecurities, right? Because I already have insecurities because I grew up with mommy issues, daddy issues, rejection and abandonment. So I already have a weakness there because of my experience. And so now that I'm really determined to serve God and give him my everything, 100% of me. I've given him a yes. I'm not playing. I was straddling the fence before. I was lukewarm. I still had one foot in, one foot out. I wanted to do my own thing and then come to God when it was convenient. But I made a choice when I realized that that wasn't working, that I wanted to truly try it his way. And so in saying yes, I didn't know that this was part of the process. I didn't know that this transition and this season and this wilderness and this isolation, I didn't know that this was going to come. I didn't know I was going to be living like this. I've never lived like this in my life, ever. I've never lived it where I had no income, like nothing. I never lived where I literally didn't know where money was going to come from regularly. I never lived where I had no furniture and no bed. Like, I don't have a bed. My kids don't have beds. We don't have a dining room table to sit and eat as a family. My children eat on the floor. I eat on this couch. Like, I never lived like this before. I never just not had a car for extended periods of time. I never even been in a situation where I didn't know what to do. So it's not easy. It's a make you or break you. Either you gonna abort the mission because it's too hard and I want to. I'm gonna be honest. Don't feel bad if you do, because I do too. Because it's that hard. Because I say, if this is what it means for me to say yes or to walk in purpose or even be a Christian, I don't want it. And I've said it. Because I'm so in my emotions and my feelings, because it hurts so much. But I want to say that whatever you got to do to anchor yourself and be grounded in whatever you know to be true, whatever God has promised you, what the word says, however you have to do that, do it. For me, I've been having to take walks because sometimes I have to get out of this house and environment. For me, I was trying to watch movies to keep my mind off of it. I babysitted my niece over the weekend. Just little things to try to keep my mind from focusing on all the pain and the depression and the hurt and the agony and the anguish and the darkness. And it works, and it's temporary, but it works in the moment. And then, eventually I got to a place where I'm like, okay, I'll read my Bible, or okay, I'll pray. But I didn't pray every day. I didn't stand on the word. I didn't worship. I didn't praise. I didn't thank him in advance every day because I didn't have the energy. And I think God knows that, and He's okay with where you are. What I did do is I kept going back to Him, though. I kept asking Him and taking it to Him, and crying out and pouring out my soul onto Him and to Jesus and laying at His feet. I kept doing that. Even though I wasn't getting the response that I wanted, I continued to go, because that's all I know. All I know is the Father. All I know is Jesus. Because I know that I can't depend on man, because we're all human and we're subject to disappoint one another. Jesus is the only thing that is dependable. He's the only thing that won't fail. And even though right now I feel hopeless, I feel like I have no faith, like I have no energy. It takes so much for me just to get up and get school done with my kids every day, to put a smile on my face and greet them every day, to love on them, to just be present with them. It takes so much energy. But if that's how I got to get through this season, then that's just what I'm going to do. And don't let anybody try to tell you you should do this or that, or it should be this or that, or you should have enough faith to do. No one does not know exactly what you're going through unless they've walked through it. People look on the outside and they think what they would do in a situation, but you really don't know until you're actually in it. And it's not easy. It's not easy to stand. It's not easy to, remain, steadfast. It's not easy to just walk by faith and not by sight all the time. It's just not. That's a process that comes with maturity, that comes with experience. And I don't believe that God expects us to get it right, everything right the first time, but He does expect us to learn from it. And so, if nothing else, I'm learning things about myself, about my faith, about being a Christian, about the journey, the process, the seasons, and even again, warfare, spiritual warfare, how the enemy particularly attacks me. That's another thing. I'm starting to see the pattern of how the enemy attacks me. He always attacks me in my areas of weakness, because that's how he is. He's not as strong as he like to make us think. That's why the Bible say he is walking around as a lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's not the Lion of Judah. He's not. He's as a lion. So he's intimidating us with these tactics and these giants that really are defeated already. Jesus already defeated them, but to us they're so huge, and they look so impossible. My situation is impossible to me. It's a giant. But I just have to trust that, just like the Lord was with David, He gonna be with me to have to slay this Goliath. But you will start seeing he's every time you're in a place you're stressed, or every time you're emotional, or every time you're grieving, or every time you're in a place where things are not going the way that you desire, or you're heartbroken or whatever. You will notice the enemy always come the same way. He always come when you're vulnerable. The attack intensifies when you're vulnerable. He always want to speak lies into your ear and tell you, that's why nobody loves you. You're never going to be loved. God doesn't love you. God, is angry at you. You're not good enough. You will start seeing, your kids act out a little more. You will start seeing the relationships around you with your family members, that one family member, start, acting, coming for you, or, just certain things, you will start seeing things in your finances. You will be able to identify the pattern of how every time you're in a particular situation or season, how things begin to shift and how things begin to happen. And that's how you can begin to identify the ways the enemy attacks you, because he doesn't change his tactic. He's doing the same thing. He studies us. He knows his opponent, which is us. He knows, his target, and he knows our weakness, and he's always coming for our weakness. And so he's always going to do the same thing. He may do it through different avenues or people or places, but he's going to come the same way. And you'll begin to learn how he is attacking you, and then you can be better position yourself in the future. But sometimes you don't get that wisdom until you actually have to go through being attacked, and go through, being, knocked down, and go through being in this season of transition and hardship, and go through, the pain of the growing pains, and the pain of, the transition. Because when you transition, you're transitioning from one state, stage, or place to another. And a lot of times we don't really know what that transition looks like. And a lot of time it's going to come with loss. It's going to come with pain. It's going to come with confusion, because you're going to feel like you don't know what's going on. Things are going to fall apart. It's going to come with questioning. It's going to come with a testing of your faith. And this is another thing about this type of season where you're transitioning, or you're in the wilderness, you're in isolation, and you're in a dark season. There's always a testing in that. There's always a testing of your faith. Like every time we meditate on the word and we read that word, or we listen to that sermon, or we do that devotion, or we do that Bible study, that is us like preparing for a test. That is us, studying to show ourselves approved. When you're in school, the teacher gives you the lesson, they give you the chapter, they give you the information, and then you have to study, because they're going to say, okay, well, Friday there's going to be a test on chapter 2. And it's the same way in Christianity. We don't look at it like that, but it's like that. Once God feels we're able, that we have enough word, that we have enough strategy, that we have enough wisdom, we have enough discernment on a certain level, then that test, that exam will come. And then now we have to live out what it was that we learned. And sometimes we don't pass the test. Unfortunately, I don't feel like I passed it, because it was so hard. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be. But I just want to encourage somebody today to say, if that's where you are, like myself, and you're going through a season and you feel like nobody understands, you feel like no one knows what you're going through, you feel like it's one of the worst seasons of your life, you've never been there before, you don't know how you're going to get out, it's impossible, you feel like the Lord has forsaken you, he he love everybody but you, he's overlooking you. I know exactly what you're going through. I know exactly what you're going through, and so many other people do too. And we don't hear about it as much as we need to encourage one another. So no, you didn't do anything wrong. No, God isn't mad at you. No, it ain't because of your past. No, it's just because it's a part of the process. It's just a part of the process, and it's a part of God stretching you and growing you, and taking you to a new level. And unfortunately, it hurts. Just like working out, when you first start working out muscles that you never used before, you start all of a sudden feeling it, and you feel pain and it hurts, but it's really good for you. It's really strengthening you. It's stretching you so you can loosen up those muscles that were once, so stiff, and they was rigid, and now you are able to, over time, the hurt becomes less and less and less, and then all of a sudden, then you get to a place where you actually like it. You like working out, you like the results, you like the way it make you feel. It's a stress reliever. You're losing weight, you're getting healthier, your mind is getting clear. But in the beginning, you don't see any goodness in it. All you see is pain, because it hurt. All you see is pain. All you see is difficulty. All you see is challenge. All you see is your deficits, because that's where you are. But if you give up, you'll never get to that place to see the goodness in it. And so I just want to say, I'm here going through it day by day myself. I have to try to encourage myself. I have to try to, anchor myself in whatever I know is true that the Lord has told me, or the word, and not try not to believe the lies of the enemy and the things that I even tell myself and what my emotions tell me and my feelings tell me, but to just truly anchor myself and try to get through each day the best way I can with no expectation. If that means I get through and I just accomplish the bare minimum, making sure my kids are okay, making sure they eat, make sure they do school, make sure they do homework, make sure they're clean. If that's all I can do, I'm okay. Because I can't put too much expectation on myself in this season, because it's difficult. And as time go on, I'm sure to get better. Like today is a better day, because last week I couldn't even did this video, and I wouldn't have. But the only way you're gonna get out, or that you'll get through it, is you actually have to endure. You have to stand under the pressure. That's what endure means. You stand under the pressure. It's a lot of pressure, and it does feel like it's going to kill you. But I just can't believe that God will bring me or you this far for us to die, or for pressure of life and circumstances, or the enemy, for that matter, to be able to destroy us. Not so. even though it feels like it sometimes. Even Jesus, when he was on the cross, he cried out in Arabic, Father, why have thou forsaken me? And we have to keep that in mind. He felt forsaken in that moment. Right before he took his last breath, he said it is finished. He felt forsaken because of all of the agony he was experiencing. He was being he was beaten he was mangled. He was nailed. They put a crown of thorns. He was mocked. He was spit on. They all kind of things. He was pierced. Everything for us. He didn't deserve any of it. And God allowed him to endure all of that. It's the Bible tells us in Isaiah 53, I believe it is, that it pleased God to crush Jesus. And so sometimes, yes, it'll please God to allow us to go through because God knows what it's going to produce. Jesus being crushed in his agony, it produced grace and salvation for us. And Jesus endured because he understood the bigger picture. It wasn't about his feelings and his emotion, his pain, because that was temporary. It only lasted so long. But his sacrifice is eternal grace so that we can be saved, for salvation for you and I. That is why it was worth it, and he endured to the end. And so I just want to leave you with that, and even myself, because I'm talking to myself right now, that sometimes we have to try to ask God to help us to see the bigger picture, see what's on the other side, see how much oil the crushing is going to produce, how much anointing, how much more anointed you will be, how much more powerful you will be, how stronger you will be when you come through it. And just to keep giving you the grace, for he said his grace is sufficient for you. He didn't take that thorn from Paul. We got to know that. Paul begged him 3 times, take it, take it, take it. And Lord said, no, my grace is sufficient for you. So we have to understand this.